Who is Jaci Wilson? That's a good question. Sometimes I wonder myself because I'm pulled in many different directions. So I started running in 2017, and it was purely to find a source of exercise that I enjoyed while studying for the CPA exam and finishing my master's degree up in accounting. And it was that source of joy and source of stress relief and something that I could just do for myself. That quickly evolved into racing half marathons and getting faster and enjoying that process of how hard can I push myself and how fast can I run. So I started with our local turkey trot. It was a 10K. My soccer coach was actually part of it, and she suggested, hey, you should try out this 10K, because I had started running at that time. And I just fell in love with being surrounded by other runners, and I am very competitive, but I was more surprised by how much harder I could push myself if I was surrounded by others. So it was kind of just pulling out that inner competition in myself of how hard can I push myself in this moment and every day through training. And from that 10K, I signed up for my first half marathon. And from that point on, training was how good can I show up today, and can I be 1% better than I was yesterday? And that kind of progressed into signing up for multiple half marathons throughout the summer, just for our local races in Fargo and Detroit Lakes, and really figuring out, okay, can I run 2 minutes faster in the next half marathon, and achieving that goal? And can I run 2 minutes faster in the next half marathon? And just continuing to kind of stair step my way through that progression. From my first half marathon was a 2:29 down to that 1:24. I love having this atmosphere as my, office, just because it reminds me of the hard work that I've put in, and some of the sacrifices that I've made of choosing to go for a run versus, staying up late, and just being able to push through those mental lows or those hard points during a workout. It reminds me that I can do so many harder things in life as well, not just those workouts. So I got to the point where I was very successful in the half marathon. I was one of the faster runners that was showing up to these races. And in 2018, I started coming in first female for all of these races. I really showed up just to push myself and figure out, again, can I be better than I was the last time? And ultimately, that led to this win streak of, it's 8 or 9 half marathons between 2018 and 2019. And that created a lot of internal pressure. It still brings a lot of emotions up because it was so performance driven. It created a lot of internal pressure for me, while also being at a very stressful point in my career and not quite knowing what I wanted to do going forward after being in public accounting for 5+ years at the time. And just working a lot of hours and realizing that the performance side and the perfectionism of myself and almost the detail-oriented part of being an accountant really drove that pressure internally. And the pressure from work also said, okay, this is not fitting into our life. Even though running was a source of joy, it's now not so much a source of joy. And I got to the point where I was not enjoying those half marathons anymore. And it was a lot of pressure, and I would get anxious about it. During that time of stress and not quite knowing what I wanted out of running and not knowing what I wanted out of my career, I was running a lot because that was my only time outside of studying and outside of working. Although I loved it in the moment, looking back, it was not a good thing. I should have been sleeping more. I should have just been at home relaxing instead of running as much. It wasn't until I showed up to the Dick Beardsley half marathon in September 2018. I was training for the Twin Cities Marathon in October, which was my A goal for the year. And I said, I have to remove all pressure, and I cannot race this because my goal race is in 4 weeks. So I removed that pressure of, I am not going to PR, I am not going to win, although that was not the goal, that was now the pressure. And I actually ran a PR because I showed up to have fun, and I showed up removing that pressure. And that's kind of where my focus shifted in running, in figuring out, okay, what does running mean to me? How do I remove this performance-based perfectionism from running so that I can fully enjoy all of it? I think there's a lot of lessons that come out of these hard things that we do, even when we push too far. And ultimately, I still look back on that race as a reminder when the pressure starts creeping up, or when the numbers and the performance-based perfectionism starts creeping up again, of, okay, you can remove this pressure from yourself. The objective is to really just have fun, and numbers don't really matter. No one else really cares about it except yourself, and everyone just wants you to enjoy your hobbies and what you're doing. There's always lessons in everything, and I think just removing those expectations was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned out of this whole journey. After that race, I ran Twin Cities Marathon. It was not the result that I wanted. I felt really good in the first half, and then something happened and shifted in the second half where heart rate was super high, I felt super fatigued, and a couple weeks later I woke up with a very high resting heart rate, and I was like, something is wrong. And ultimately, the stress from work, the stress from pushing too hard in running and not getting enough sleep, and I think sleep was a lot of it, but really just running on adrenaline for the past 11 months created way too much stress in my body. And I actually took time off from running, about 14 months, to heal myself physically and mentally, and really just figure out where does running fit in right now and what do I want it to look like going forward. Really figuring out what I needed to do to make running fun again was the next kind of big journey that kind of leads me to where I am today.
Play now.
After the half marathon in September and my marathon in October, I finally realized that along with the performance-based perfectionism that I needed to figure out and continue to release, I also realized that I needed to take some changes in my life to find a little bit more harmony between work and running and hobbies and just home life. That's when I left public accounting, and I had already been coaching part-time, and I kind of transitioned to, okay, this is a source of joy. I love helping runners. Why not take this full-time and maybe have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule, and also just finding more peace in what I was doing and why I was doing it. So during this 14-month period of not running, I'm working with runners every day with their running, their races, their strength training, their nutrition, and that really fueled the source of joy of, okay, yes, running needs to stay in my life. I need to figure out how I can continue to keep it in my life, how I can get back to running after I feel healthy again, both physically and mentally, without having that pressure and those expectations of what I had achieved in the past. I really started focusing on mindful running, being in tune with myself, figuring out what do I actually enjoy about running. I enjoy being outside. I enjoy moving my body. I enjoy running with friends and chatting with them. But I think that outdoor piece was really important for me. That's always been a part of who I am. going through this period of time of healing both physically and mentally, I got to a point that following spring, the spring of 2021, where it's like, okay, I think I should start walking and easing back into running if my heart rate responds well, if I'm recovering well, and if I can keep those numbers out of my head. I started running on the trails more. That's when I realized that maybe trail running is my next thing. So my first race back was actually running wild in Maplewood State Park, and I absolutely fell in love with the trails. It like confirmed to me, like, you just need to remove that pressure. And I reminded myself of that Dick Beardsley race of, okay, pace does not matter. It does not matter what you did in the past. This is what you're doing right now, and this is what matters right now. So hitting the trails and not even thinking about paces and numbers was kind of what brings me to what I've done over the past few years of getting more into longer trail races, getting into ultra marathons, and having more fun. It's more about the adventure. What am I going to learn about myself? How far can I go? What am I capable of? And I think running really teaches you about yourself, both during running, but then also in everyday life. Like, there are so many lessons that I learn in running about pushing through hard moments that I can take to my daily life. That sense of adventure, really every day is an adventure. And I think that's just one of my favorite parts about the transition from how fast can I run on the road to what am I capable of today during this adventure, no matter what that adventure means for me. Discovering my joy for the trails really helped me moving forward with what I wanted to do with my races. It really helped me change my perspective of why I was signing up for races and why I was training for them. The perspective was, what do I want out of this, instead of what do I think others want out of this for me. So spring of 2024, I was helping my husband with tax season. I was also coaching full time. I had a lot going on, but I still wanted to keep training in my life because that is a source of joy. But I needed to figure out, what can I train for without having it become too much? And there's not a lot of marathons in our area in May. So I kind of just kept it open-ended of, I'm going to go through the process of marathon training. And I think enjoying the process is the important part versus focusing on a set goal. April came around and I still hadn't really found a May marathon, but I found a May 50K on Ultra Sign Up in Blue Mountain State Park. Okay, we are signing up for a trail race. We haven't been running on the trails this winter, but we're going to start now in the spring, and we're just going to have fun with this. We're going to have zero expectations. So that really helped me go into that race of, this is your first official ultra. This is your first long trail race, and we're just going to have fun. That day was so much fun. The trail was just gorgeous. The park is gorgeous. And that was just my kind of celebration of wrapping up a busy tax season and approaching the upcoming race season as, okay, we can continue to remember the lessons that we have learned and forget about the numbers and just have fun and see what are we actually capable of doing when we don't have those pressures self-imposed. So I crossed the finish line and they're ringing these cowbells and they're saying, you came in first female. I was completely shocked because, again, I wasn't paying attention to who was in front of me, who was behind me. I was just out there for myself. That 50K really confirmed that the trails are where I want to be. And it confirmed to me that this is what I want to continue to do. 50K, although I was pushing it pretty hard, it's not that hard. The question was, how far can I actually go? And that got me back onto ultra sign up probably that same week after the race. That ultra sign up search led me to finding the Extreme North Dakota Backyard Ultra. That Backyard Ultra was so much fun. It allowed me to learn so much about what I wanted to do in the future with ultras and ultimately with the Backyard Ultra itself. I think all of these experiences and lessons that I've learned over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 years has really fueled who I am today. I am someone who's highly driven, but I'm very curious about what is capable and how can we continue to grow as human beings. How can my training fuel who I am outside of training, who I am as a coach, who I am as a wife, who I am as a friend. But I also think those life experiences fuel who I am as a runner in really growing as this human being who does not identify solely as a runner.